e ngā mana, tēnā koutou katoa. Nā ahurangi, nā kaioko, nā kaimahi ki te ngau tauira, tēnā koutou katoa. E harurei Meng, tēnā koe. Nau mai haramai ki te whare wānanga o Waikato, nau mai haramai e runa e te aroha me te humare. Tēnā koe e te rangatira, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everybody, it's my pleasure to welcome you and thank you for coming this afternoon. And also good afternoon to those people in Tauranga and elsewhere from the live feed. We appreciate your attendance in what is a busy time of year, and particularly those with boards of examiners and all those things to get through this afternoon. It gives me great pleasure, though, to introduce the Race Relations Commissioner, Meng Foon, to you this afternoon. Meng was invited to visit the Hamilton campus earlier today to meet with members of the task force, and as its name suggests, it's being tasked with responding to the recent Parata Gardner report. With Meng visiting, we thought it was an opportune time to ask him to offer us some words of wisdom on ways of recognising and responding to casual and systemic racism, which were particular themes in the report. This will be just the first of a number of opportunities for us to consider the ways and means discrimination and racism persist in large organisations like a university, and how we might be vigilant to both at the individual and institutional level. For those who don't know Meng, he took up the opportunity of Race Relations Commissioner in 2019 after 24 years at the Gisborne District Council. He was elected as a councillor in 1995. In 2001 he was elected as mayor, and that's when I got to know Meng. And it's a role he held for 18 years. And he's one of a handful of people of Chinese descent to become a mayor in New Zealand. He's fluent in English, Cantonese and Te Reo Māori, and is a member of a number of community organisations, including Ngā Toanga o Ngā Tamatoa Trust, the New Zealand Chinese Association, Aotearoa Social Enterprise Trust, and My Gold Investments Limited. He's been chair of the Gisborne Tairāwhiti Rugby League since 2007 as a member of the New Zealand Rugby League Board. Meng is responsible for leading the work of the Human Rights Commission and promoting positive relations. It's my real pleasure to welcome Meng, and the stage is yours.
Kia ora. Waikato tani wharau, he piko he tani wha. Whakatau mai rā ki tēnei tani wha no hekurangi, no waiapu, no pōraurangi, me ki ka mihi ki a koutou, a ki ingi tūheitia pō tatau te whero tua whetu, me ki te makarau tata whai, me te kāhui āriki e whakaemi tātou, kei rō i o koutou whenua. Me ki tēnā no tātou ki o tātou mate huhua, rātou kuwhiturangi tia, tai nihi rā kua haere a Rudy Taylor, kua haere wau ki te nota, ki te tuku whakamihi ki ai e kei rō i tōna marae ko mātai taua. Hoia no me ki hoki ngā mahara ki Anko Api, ko hau mai nei ki Konik, mahi tahi kei rō i te whare wānanga me ki kei te taha o Robert Mahuta. Mā, nō reira ki a rātou mā, haere atu rā. Uri rauna ki a koutou, ka mōhio koe, kei taha mai te tangata, no whea, no hikurangi. Anko, waurau, ka mihi ki a koe me tō wahine hau, nā. Me ki ngā uri o te kāinga tēnā koutou, and absolutely fantastic to be with you here. I just want to acknowledge Chancellor Sir Anand Satyanan, thank you sir, for the hospitality and the openness that you have afforded me to be with you today. Awesome. I've just had a tour of the Boone artwork, and a great reflection a change from the grey wars to storytelling. And that's what this is all about. And I just want to acknowledge, Alistair, your time in the Tairā Whiti to say, well, how do we get more people from Gisborne to actually come to the whare wānanga o Waikato? Well, it's to actually form those relationships and the whakawhanaungatanga. I think we have an office there, don't we? My sister-in-law used to work in the office of the Waikato University. Yeah, you don't need a degree to work in there, actually, which is great. But huri no, tātou, lecture. Well, just a little bit about myself first, because I'm not a scholar of such, right? I just have a lot of lived experiences in my life. And so my dad, when he came to Hong Kong, he was a refugee, mainly because of the Japanese invasion of China and Guangzhou those days. My mum, which he met later because he came to Gisborne, I think they actually had some Google Maps or something. She says, oh yeah, I think I'll go over there to the first city to see the sun. And they arrived at Matawhero. They had a cooperative there, and there was a Chinese gentleman that actually ran the cooperative. And there, his mission was to actually save some money. And save some money he did, and he wanted to buy some land, but the Pākehā farmers around that says, no, don't you sell to those Chinaman people. But however, he actually paid a bit more. And that is still the perception today, that if someone pays you more for your house, money does not discriminate. And so I'll take the money, thank you very much. I don't want to see, no, right. Anyway, so he saved some money, and then he went back to about 7, 8 Chinese men, went back to Hong Kong to actually get their wives, literally. That's yours over there, that's yours, that's yours. And that's how it was, you know. Sometimes this notion of matched marriages or that is foreign. It is actually quite a common thing. And you have a look at the royal family or Māoridom, Chinese. Many cultures actually say, no, that's yours and that's yours. And my parents did the same for me. And I said, oh, yep. Because there's a lot of pressure those days at around about... as soon as you finish school, at 18, you've got to get married. Hey, maybe not you fellas, okay. But anyway, I'll just tell you how quickly in our lives that my family have gone from being pure Chinese to global family. My 3 kids, we encouraged them to marry Chinese, right? And I also thought it would be good to actually have Māori in us. Right? And I used to say, look, children, if you're looking for a Māori mate, woman, female, male, make sure there's only one in the family. Because I know that there's lots of shareholders on land. But if you have one, you'll have everything. All right? But anyway, none of them listened. And so my oldest daughter has got a husband who is English, Scottish, Nordic, and Jewish. My middle daughter has German and French, and my son has Croatian, US, and Iranian. And so within a generation, it's all changed. And that is about our nation. Our nation is actually made under the sheets, or back in those days, Anand maybe on the bench seat in the front car. Things, you know, it's amazing how quickly our countries change. Because back in 1842 was the first Chinese person that actually came to Aotearoa. And he settled, he got off the boat and he said, I'm not getting back on there again. I can actually see some beautiful girls there picking boo-boos. And so in 1842, he settled in Nelson, Apok. In 1864, Manuel Jose, who actually came from Valverde de Mahano, he actually got off the ship at Port Awanui in Te Araroa and says, look, I'm not getting back onto that ship. I can see wahine gathering boo-boos and ruku kaura and all those seafood things. And out of one person, there are 35 descendants from this one person. 35,000. That's huge. We had the opportunity to go to his village, and there were some living descendants of the same generation that were from us in the Tairāwhiti, and it was just awesome. And it's all about people. And one of the interesting things about people is that some people think others are better than others. Who's read the book or the film Animal Farm? Yeah. We say that we're equal, but the pig is better than the others, right? And so I was born in the year of the pig. Don't you have stereotyping now? Right? I'm born in the year of the pig, and the pig is there to actually have lots of piglets. And my zodiac sign is to say we look after and manaki people and we share. And my wife is a rat. She likes to hoard. And she likes to look after herself, you know. And I said, no, there's enough handbags up there. You don't need any more. There's enough shoes, but I've got nothing to wear. So interestingly enough, we have in the zodiac that we are a perfect match, the pig and the rat. And so we've actually been married for 40 years, which is a long time, doing the same thing. But as humans, see, the interesting thing about us here today is that if we were all human beings, and we are, is that we all have dressed differently. No one's dressed the same. Interesting. Even if you come from the same household, you're all dressed differently. So why is it if we can dress differently and be accepted for what we dress in, that sometimes we actually have stereotyping of discrimination, racism? And I just want to acknowledge the Waikato University for their support for the matter of racist or alleged racism, and the Gardener and Parata, Sir Wira Gardner and Right Honourable Heke Parata actually presented, and Professor Alistair, Vice Pro, not yet, next one, see, next time, right? Anyway, Senior Professor and Professor Linda Smith, they co-chairing the task force, and we had a little chat today about things. I just want to acknowledge lunch was beautiful. Thank you so much. At the end of the day, it is about people, right? Nothing more important than people, relationships, and if we want to get along in this world, it is about each and every one of us and valuing each other. Because each and every one of us actually has value and a different perspective that we can actually bring into this world to actually make better decisions for each and every one of us. Now, I'm not a very good person, and just want to acknowledge Gareth. He's done up some notes for me, right? And I can't read because at high school I was actually mentored or taught for remedial reading, and because Chinese was my first language. And then when you went to school, it's very hard to go to the toilet or ask the teacher to go to the toilet when you don't know how to. And so I couldn't wait to playtime and lunchtime. Otherwise, there'd be a little puddle around the teacher's mat. Interesting, some of my friends that come from overseas, they actually get frightened with this New Zealand slang. They said, oh, look, I'll have your guts. And they said, oh, shivers. I know I might have read about people eating people, but can I have your guts? Well, I'll pick your brain. I'll pick your brain. And so we have a lot of local colloquialisms, or kiwaha, they call them. And so, you know, we just got to sort of ask people and maybe be kinder to people and listen to people in terms of their perspective. I get a lot of comments from foreign nationals and even locals of colour that say, where are you from, right? I don't actually have a problem as to actually people asking me where I'm from. But some people do have a problem asking, where are you from? Because where you are from is that one of the things that we're inquisitive about is actually, can we actually have this 2 degrees of separation, identification? Or can I actually associate myself to you when I'm talking to you? And so this is a New Zealand thing, and it's even a Chinese thing. A Chinese thing would say, ni nai loia, or ni hei bindo lega. Who are your parents? They'll say, you know, who are your parents? And it's a Māori thing as well. And I think it's a New Zealand thing to actually ask people, no whea koe, kei whea tō kāinga. And so we just have this richness in terms of asking questions, but you need to actually ask, when you ask the question, that you actually individualize it and not stereotype it. Who's actually listened to the voice of racism? See, that's how good it was, you see. 4 people out of the audience, fantastic. Now, there's no criticism of anything, but I'm just saying that when some of our experts think that this is the way to go, we just agree with it because they've done all the research. They're professors, of course, and they've been to university and they've done market research and all that sort of stuff. But however, with the not many people listening to it, it is an excellent resource. All I'm going to say is an excellent resource. And one of the suggestions today at the table, at the task force, was that everybody in the Waikato University whānau family should actually listen to the voice of racism before they sign up to be a student or a worker in this organisation, in this beautiful faculty of knowledge. And you sign up and you acknowledge that you have listened to it. And the other thing that I actually have 3 A's. The first A is being aware. Because sometimes we're not aware. We carry these messages from our parents, our friends, and sometimes when we say it to our friends don't actually pull you up on it. They just laugh it away because it's been like that for years. And so when you know that, oh, this could be me, I would like you to actually write down 1 or 2 actions on a piece of card. And we've got to be practical. And put that in your pocket or post it on the toilet door and remind yourself that these are the actions that you need to follow while you are aware of yourself. Because we are people, humans tend to forget. We need reminding all the time. If you're a teacher, you have to go and apply for teachers' reaccreditation all the time. It doesn't automatically come. When we get to a certain age, we have to go back for our license. Just imagine if there were no lines on the road, we'll be all over the place. And no 30 miles, or 30, not 30 mile signs, 30 kilometre signs, we could be going 70. Or if there's no zebra crossings, we'll run over people. So we as humans actually need reaffirmation all the time. That's why Uncle Walter has to recite whakapapa all the time. And so that he keeps reminding himself that's where he's from, but also for other people to listen to too. So the third thing is action. Awareness, affirmation, action. And like at home, if my wife Ying says, can you hang out the washing? Look out if you don't. Rah, 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 rah. Right? Ngutu paki paki. And so action is very important in anything. Actually, action speaks louder than words. I'm not a person of many words, actually. It might sound, I might be telling fibs that I'm not of many words, but I have actually learnt to actually tell stories and to hopefully articulate a debate. I was actually quite shy at school, and so now I want you to have a listen. Now, how we do this. Oh, no. Right. Normally when you do this, you exit. End show. There you go. We should have had this up first, eh? The voice of racism. There you go.
Where are you at? You don't want to stand out.
Have a listen.
We're just establishing your position. The funding has been cut. I suppose that's different in your culture.
You only got where you are because of special treatment.
I know it's your religion, but you're drawing attention to yourself.
They're avoiding talking to you. A teacher? Really? You don't seem like a teacher. Are you a witch?
Our country hates your religion.
Are you gonna eat your goldfish?
I need to see some ID.
You're taking all the jobs.
Hori! Get me away from that. I don't want to go to her checkout.
Biggest threat to our children is you immigrants.
Why does it have to be your way?
Pew pew! I'm gonna kill you. Bloody.
They're watching you closely because you can't be trusted.
Now I could leave that on for the next half hour, and that'll be the end of my presentation, which will be nice and easy. But you can hear sometimes these voices of what people say. And if you, like I said, if you do hear these voices, you can make that change. You can make that change, and not only make that change, but you can also say to other people that actually have saying these things, to actually pull them up. And don't have to be public about it if you don't want to, but pull them up and says, look, what you're actually saying is actually quite hurtful. Now, when it's very confronting. If you're going to actually pull somebody up, it's not that easy, because that person could be bigger, could be louder, could be stronger, or could be in a realm of more influence and power, could be the manager, the chief executive. So what do? What we do, what I suggest that you do, the first thing that if you're confronted with this sort of uneasiness of racism, is to actually write it down. Time, place, who, what was said. And the reason why you need to write it down is like policemen. If you don't write it down, you're likely to forget. Or you're likely, because when you're actually going to confront that person or make a complaint, might get the shakes, might feel nervous at the knees, may forget. And then as soon as you forget, you've actually lost that position of influence because your facts are not accurate. But before you go and complain, please, hopefully you've got mates. If it's not your work colleagues, someone in your whānau or some friends, and go together. Because together gives you strength and confidence to actually front the person that you're going to complain to. The Human Rights Commission has a complaint service. It is the only free service in the whole of New Zealand in terms of mediation and law. It has a mediation service and it has a tribunal service. However, the threshold is quite high in terms of the tribunal. You've got to incite violence. And inciting violence is not a threshold that actually goes to court often. There's only around about 5 or 6 cases a year. That's not many. But we get thousands of cases that actually come to the Human Rights Commission. Feel free to have a look at the website and complain. Complaining, now the unfortunate thing about mediation is that 2 parties need to agree to actually chat. And if 2 parties agree, then we can mediate our way through the issues, and around about 80% of them are successful, which is awesome. The biggest groups of people that actually get abused or discriminated against are Māori, Pacific, Asian, and people with disabilities. The highest group in terms of percentage is LGBTI. But we're working our way through that, aren't we? Because we as a nation have quite liberal laws. You're going to get union, or it used to be called union, but now you can actually get married. And so we have in the commission, we have half of our staff are legal. Don't know why, but they're legal. And the other half are advocates. So my role is actually to lobby, to be an advocate, to have your back, and to hold the government to account, or hold organisations to account, and to promote harmonious communities. And the biggest thing for me is actually face-to-face. Seeing you here is everything. So I just want to acknowledge you coming today. I don't actually know what's on the next slide, brother. Is there, you want to work this thing? Yeah, Gareth. Terrible, eh, Tracy? I've got to value our staff's work, you know, because they didn't spend days doing this for me for nothing. But I'm open to some questions, right? So we've got 2 things that we can actually do to lessen casual racism. That is, sign up to the Voice of Racism personally, acknowledge that if you have an issue, write down an action plan. 2 points is plenty, don't need 10, and action it. Now the other thing that we're doing is actually a national action plan against racism. The National Action Plan of Racism will come from you as a community. I'm here to empower you to actually tell the government what you believe are actions that will help eliminate racism. Help eliminate racism. So we're working with the Ministry of Justice, and when the government adopts this plan, it's very practical. You'll probably be able to hang it on a A4. It'll probably stick on your policy books, and also on the walls of your campus here, and in organisations, NGOs, government, local government. And we also want to to help us develop the policy. Policy may be only half a dozen lines to say that we as an organisation want to eliminate racism, right? Because to ask organisations to do that, they'll probably have to have a workshop and another facilitator to come in, and it'll cost them a few bucks. And so I just want to help the organisations to actually adopt policy as easy as possible. We're working with the police at the moment, because the police are frontline to a lot of customers. And one of the things that we're doing is actually finding out right now what is the current situation, because if we don't know what the current situation is, how do we measure stuff? And so this is work in progress, and we're actually going to develop this plan ourselves. Even though people will say, oh, why are you working with the police? Are you mates with them or whatever? But however, we still can hold them to account, because we are an independent Crown entity. We're appointed by the Governor-General, and that actually gives us that independency like other, the Ombudsman, the Children's Commissioner, the Privacy Commissioner, and other commissioners that are in the team of the independent Crown entities to actually hold the government to account. A little bit about the Tiriti of Waitangi. You probably learned this in the Whare Wānanga o Aotearoa, Waikato, right? I like this saying, where is it? Where the world is going. Tahunga mai o te ao. Where is the world going? The world has come a long way. Good, bad, but it's, you know, it's traveling by the second every day. One thing that you cannot control is time. There's no such thing as time management in my book. It's you. You manage the time, because every time you do something, time's gone, right? So tomorrow will be tomorrow, but today is today. And I can't control the time. I can manage my time in the time. And so when the Tiriti was signed, and I get it, you know, when it says, oh, look, there goes these Māoris again, they're getting this and getting that. But remember, they had 100% of this whenua at one time, total. Now they only have about 4 or 5%. Now, without economics, you cannot do what you can do, like health, education, housing, and other things. And so, if we go strip it right back, it was about rangatiratanga, which iwi hapu actually controlled their own destiny and their own people. And it was about kawanatanga, which is the crown part. And that is us, the tangata tiriti. And the crown was going to look after those people and making sure that they kept law and order, but also affording citizenship to everyone. So I have great hope, and you can see it now in the influence of Tainui, Ngāti Porou, Ngai Tahu, Ngāti Whātua, in terms of their economic development. You're experiencing this right now, right here. You go to Te Awa. I think the university is Tainui asset, so you're paying a bit of rent. And that's the beauty thing about it, you know. And I believe that in, say, look, I really want to live to 80 years old, at least. I hope I get there. I want to see and witness what has been achieved from the time of the signing of the Tiriti of Waitangi. It's been ups and downs, ebbs and flows, but I want to see in 2040, which is still another 20 years away, Sir Anand. It's a long time, isn't it? 19 years to go, to see where the Māori world is placed. Now, to get a better understanding of the Māori world, there is not a homogenized group of people. Just like Chinese people, we come from all over the place. Muslim people come from all over the place. Pacific people come from all over the place. We are not homogenous. Māori are not homogenous. There are actually hundreds of nations within this nation of Aotearoa. And at the signing of the Tiriti, it was actually about hapu. There was actually no word called iwi in the Tiriti. And so as we move along to 2040, I am in great hope that there is positive energy in Aotearoa. Now, the problem with the news is that they always are deficit reporting. They say this many people in jail, this many people unemployed, this many people doing this and that. But what about the other 97%? The 97% that are doing fantastically and providing great stats and energy and contributing and providing value to Aotearoa. And so if you're ever involved in communications, celebrate the greatness of everyone. Now, what I do hear from some of the students here, they acknowledge that the issue has been, Māori has brought a case of racism in Waikato University, true or not, up to the report to say. But the other ethnicities are saying, the other races are saying, well, great, but what about us? Because we too are feeling a bit of discrimination. So hopefully the task force will look at those aspects as well. See, in deficit reporting, the government, the newspapers and the media has actually, you know, when they report on the overseas students not being able to come to New Zealand, they look at it as money. Look, we're not going to have the money to actually do our operations and provide the courses in the various educational institutes. Good signals to stop soon. Thank you very much. Institutions, and you know, you see this in the newspaper and they say, oh yes, we're short of $1 million and all that sort of stuff. Look, they are great customers. They are people that you need to value. And to value them, one needs to actually provide resources to actually look after them, because they actually come from overseas. Whether they come from the Pacific Islands or whether they come from Asia or Europe or South America, they are providing a resource which is 4 times the study fees normally, over and above what New Zealanders pay. And so what is the university going to do about that to actually encourage more people, so they say they can actually sing out to the world and say what a great place this University of Waikato is. It actually looks after not only the academic well-being, but our personal well-being as well. Our families, our culture, do we actually celebrate us from different countries as well? And the interesting thing, like I said, you know, food. Food is a great thing, isn't it? We're actually by default learning new words through food. Spaghetti is a word that is not English. Or wontons is not English. Or hamo, which is that beautiful ham thing that they dry in Spain. They hang by the thousands up in the room there, and it's beautiful to have a beer with it. You know, so there's a lot of languages and stuff that we're learning by default. We don't even know that we're eating pad thai or pecorino or lots of other stuff, you know, watties. And so food is a great way to actually celebrate diversity in culture and learning about things. We buy taonga. You know, the word taonga and whānau is used often now by other people other than Māori. Mokopuna. Oh, I'm going to go and see our mokos. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll go and see our mokos. Or that our friends are coming from another town or from another part of the world, and we're going to go and get some taonga for them to take back. So by default, without even us knowing, we're actually sharing culture, sharing diversity, sharing language, food, clothes. Thank you for wearing Chinese clothes today. Chinese shoes. You know, it's quite interesting, isn't it? How things that you don't really know, but you're wearing our clothes. Ka pai. Anyway, I'm going to open up for questions now because I've spoken enough, because there'll be some burning things that you'll want to know about that I don't want you to go away without your question. Hopefully I can answer. If I can't, I can't. Will the default be English? It's actually interesting that there are a lot of conversations on activation of the Te Rikiti o Waitangi. And, you know, through the State Sectors Commission, we're working hard with them to actually have more Māori Pacific Asian at the top levels of decision making, whether it's a governance, chief executive, senior managers. And so as the world evolves, definitely not. I am going to say that our parliament is awesome at the moment, especially the Labour Party in terms of how it actually is reflecting our communities at the top level of decision making. And we need to actually reflect that at all levels of society. So the default position is only for now. Tomorrow it will be different. At the present time, a number of councils would like to actually have Māori seats. It's not a threat to Pākehā seats or general seats. What the councils are saying, because most of them are Pākehā, is that they actually see value in having tangata whenua at the decision-making table. It actually enhances the outcomes, provides more outputs. Talk about outputs. If you're a volunteer, you always give more than what you have. A case in point in terms of, you all been to a marae? RSVP'd? No. Tens, hundreds, thousands, whakaeke I te marae, to the ātia, or not only you as physical, live people come onto the marae, but your ancestors are called on as well. They called on and they acknowledged and supported, and then there's the hariru, shake hands, press noses, pāparinga ki te pāparinga, and kai. E Parakura Horomea's tangi, 15,000 came through. That meant at least 15,000 kaura for crayfish. You couldn't afford that if you had to put it with an RSVP. I know only 10 people can come to my wedding, because, and everybody at Parakura's tangi on the last day got a dozen bluff oysters, alongside with kina, kaura mara, raw fish, all those delicacies that when we go to the marae, we say, ooh, yummy. And the home people only want meat. But that is the manakitanga. Without numbers or budgets, it's feed the whānau. I had 500 people come to my wedding. Just come. Oh yeah, see you down the street, you're a customer of ours. Bring your whole family. Really? Bring the whole family. Yeah, no, bring the kids as well. And your neighbours. And so, you know, you have just that thought of generosity. I was annoyed when Kai Kaura, right? Kai Kaura in South Island, they had that earthquake. And they had some tourists actually stranded. And they interviewed this American because the local Kaikoura iwi hapu there hosted the people in their marae. And here's this fellow from America says, oh, how's it going? You know, you've been well looked after? Yeah, we're sick of crayfish. Right? How ungrateful. During the COVID, Māori had to actually look after themselves because the history of the government and organisations looking after them during pandemic is not a pretty picture. 15 to 1 died. There are no hospitals and doctors and nurses up in Tikapa or in Kaio up north. You have to close the roads. And it's interesting that, you know, the local, the mayor says, oh, yes, no, they shouldn't close the roads. But when they get a bit of news report, they say, oh, no, that's a good idea. You know, we'll support the tangata whenua and we'll work with the police to actually close the roads. It wasn't actually about closing the roads, it was actually making sure that people were safe. Because the mātauranga in our pakeke is so important that it needs to be preserved so they can continue to tell the stories going in the future. So if you're in a committee, now I'll just, before I go to the committee thing, if you are able, it would be great for you to actually battle for disabled people. It would be great for other races to actually battle for other races, like Pākehā people saying, no, we don't want racism. It would be great for men to stand up for women, to say that stop the abuse, we want women to have equal pay. It would be great for people that are not LGBTIQ to actually stand up for them and say, no, they deserve the right to be human beings and treated with dignity and respect. A challenge for us. Committees. If you're on a committee and it's not representative, stand up and say, hey, we need more diversity in here. And I know that the notion of, oh, those fellas don't have any experience. Well, how the hell are you supposed to get experience if you don't even ask them to actually participate in a committee or a governance group? Because at the end of the day, there's more than one. There's about 8 or 10 people that do have experience, and it'd be nice to actually bring somebody and mentor them. Now, a lot of us, mainly browner-skinned people, we're not that forward, right? We don't say, oh, pick me, I want to do this and do that. We tend to be quite reserved. And it would be good if you are the chairperson or somebody, project manager, and says, hey, Sione, can you actually do this? Rather than asking who, just pick somebody that actually sits in the background, that has the ability to do something, and they will do it. Trust them. Trust them. When I was at school, teachers say, look at me. Look at me when I speak to you. I'll go home. The old lady will start growling me and I'll look at her. What are you looking at? Just a subtle cultural difference, right? If you know, then you'll know. If you don't know, it's all right to be looking at your feet while you're getting a lecture. You know, it's all right. Because we're all different. We come from different backgrounds. But we can all be valued and contribute. Yes, kia ora.
Thank you very much, and I really enjoyed the talk, and I think there's really an important message there in terms of how individually, in different capacities, we could do more. What is your view in terms of thinking about the next level, which might be about institutional processes and the rules of the game? Is there, rather than to depend on individuals for their goodwill, in thinking about being brave and being honest, which is, all of it is really important, do you see a space for rules to be changed to try and prevent the racism or the casual and other kinds of discriminatory practices?
Yeah. I think change needs to be deliberate. And the reason why I say that is that for many years, people have been talking about we need more women in boards, governance, at management levels, right? And they need to be paid equally. But that's been only talk, flowery talk. Nothing happens. Maybe a token, yes, we'll have one on here, one on there, one up there. But that's only talk. And you know, when they fought for the women's right to vote, men stood up and says, yes, women deserve to vote, the vote. They didn't say that they deserve to be in Parliament. Hard case, isn't it, some people? So it needs to be deliberate. And the people that are in power or influence, we need you to stand up and say, hey, we need more diversity on our board, on our governance practices, our governance organizations. Then there will be change. Now, when I was, I think Sid Clark was one of the first Māori to actually be on the Gisborne District Council, but before that, they used to talk about Māoris on council, disparagingly. But when he came on, it stopped. So that's where the faces of those people that are of diverse nature, that are not on those organizations, they get talked about, right? When I was elected on council, I actually sat next to my remedial teaching teacher, Mrs. Evans, right? And one day she stood up and she said, you know these Chinese people, she said, the buildings are terrible. They own half the main street, and what can we do about them? You know? And I was sitting right next to her. One of the principals, who was a councillor, he said, hey, Meng's right next door to you. Oh, my apologies, your worship, she said to the mayor at the time. But you know, you need the voices and the faces of those people deliberately in those organizations to actually stop it. But also, sometimes there is a problem too, because those people that are in those positions, say diverse lady from a particular culture is in there, then they start to be, because they feel important. Hey, and they are the go-to people for that. And then they suddenly hold the door, who comes in and who comes out. So we need more diversity, and it should be just a normal practice. Hopefully we'll get there. I know we'll get there, because we're changing under the bed sheets. We absolutely are. Yep.
Tuatahi nei, me mihi ka tika ki a koe, maunga I kurangi nei rata mihi mai o hai whai wahi mai, ki te kōrero mai ki a mātou nei, ki Waikato, ki te maunga o Taupiri, ki ngā maunga o tēnei wahi nei rata mihi. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your kōrero and sharing your time with us, and that's valuable too. My partai really is around te reo Māori, because I know you're fluent in te reo Māori. In what ways has you having a strong competency around te reo Māori, how has that afforded you the ability to navigate in bicultural ways in support of diverse communities, and sort of what would your advice be for people who are interested in working in partnership with Māori communities and so on and so forth?
I wish Aotearoa back in 1840 when they signed the Tiriti that everybody learnt Māori and English, naturally. Because that's what happens in most other countries. Most people are very proficient in many languages, including their village language, the province language, the national language, and the languages around other countries. Language is the key to communication. Simple. And if you can learn te reo Māori, because like I'm saying, this country is going to be a Māori country going forward. It's going to have more Māori concepts, values, and they already started in organisations like yours going into the future, that if you can learn and understand, and not only learn and understand, but participate in the life of Māoridom, our country will be that much richer. Look at myself. I only learnt because I just was interested genetically. You may be doctors and lawyers and scientists and linguists, because that is your passion. My whole family had the opportunity to learn Māori at the shop, but I was the only one. And so if I am an example of what can happen, then let that be an example for you as well. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, sure.
So, Meng, thank you very much for your contributions to the university today, not just in this session. It's been a fantastic conversation that we've had. Thank you for your leadership nationally in race relations, and I think particularly for the way you live your life and how you bring that to the fore in the way we talk and the way we think about our future. So, and the action that we must take, and we will be brave. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much. You have a great day. Don't forget, action, action. Kia ora.